Gentlemen, hey, congratulations on Space Command, and it's particularly the first of your feature film with Space Command Redemption that's already out. So it is this is a long time coming. I was explaining Mark before that I visited the set long time ago.
Yes.
I don't want to say it was 10 years ago, but it felt like a long time ago.
Feels like yesterday though, gig. Feels like yesterday.
Yeah. It's great. Well, the fun part is seeing all of this stuff in my head, the entire 12-hour season, and then slowly but surely getting it all to where the rest of the world can see it. So we just finished shooting hour 6 of the 12-hour season, and we're busily writing the new draft of the next 2-hour story. And you guys are going to be really doing a lot in it. So it's very, very fun. So so great, cool.
Well, then let me throw this question that we always ask is, Mark, where was the original idea that spawned for Space Command?
Yeah, I when I was 10, the original Star Trek came out, it debuted, and it was just like my eyes were opened. It was amazing. It was an amazing show. It was fresh. It was different. I was just hooked. And the great thing about the original Star Trek was that even though it was during the Vietnam War, during the riots in the streets, the cities were burning in America, people forget what a turbulent time the original Star Trek aired during. And yet Gene Roddenberry had the courage and the vision to say we can create a better world. We can reach across boundaries and barriers, and we can make something worth living in. And in recent times, I was seeing that so much of the science fiction was so dystopic, so negative, basically giving a message of, well, the future is going to be shitty and there's nothing you can do about it. And I thought that was a very disempowering message to give to millions of people. And so I wanted to do something that would be hopeful and positive without being sugar coated, but it would basically be, particularly in these times when people are being so polarized. I wanted, I love variety. I love having different kinds of people in my life, and I don't want to exclude people. I want to include everybody, and if particularly if they come with a good heart. And the one thing that everyone can agree on, or unless they're out of their minds, sorry about that, unless they're out of their minds, is that we all want to have a better future for our children and our grandchildren. We want them to be safe. We want them to be well. We want them to have opportunities, and that crosses all sorts of political divides. And that's what Star Trek did, and that's what we're doing with Space Command.
Well, that sounds wonderful. It seems like you kept all the same themes from Star Trek, diversity and adversity and everything else into Space Command.
Yes, and one thing that Star Trek also did that was unique for its time is, you have Uhura and you have Sulu and you have all these different characters, and race is never the issue. Race is never discussed. They're just part of the family and accepted as fully equal people. And and that alone, as an underlying statement of acceptance, where it's not, it's like, okay, other stories can certainly talk about struggle. And certainly when I came up with Far Beyond the Stars for Deep Space Nine, we addressed race very, very directly. But Star Trek basically said we can have a community that includes everyone, and that, well, and that was a positive. And so I love that. Oh, hello, Doug. Look at that.
Hey,
Yeah,
I
and
snuck in here.
no, you're wonderful and even more tousled than when I last saw you. So it's a good look. It's a good look.
Yeah, that's good. That's good.
Yeah, here's everybody, and I'm on in the studio right now. So, but go ahead, please, Gig. Continue.
Sure. So, and now for the rest of the cast, what initially drew you that you wanted to be a part of the project of this epic series, Space Command?
Well, for Brian and I, we kind of got lucky because we just submitted an audition tape to a worldwide talent search, and there was this at the time it was just called just Space Command, so that was even before Space Command Redemption, and we just kind of rolled the dice and hoped for the best, and then that guy Marc Zicree right there picked this guy and this guy to be on this show, so it was kind of an exciting, not just as an actor, but as just to be a part of something so big.
Yeah. And I should point out also that we pay them well enough so they can afford clothes with colors, but just to let you know.
Yeah,
but but Doug, and then I'll let you jump in, Doug. But Doug, I cast, and I wrote the role specifically for him But for two of our lead roles, we had a worldwide casting search where anyone, anywhere in the world could download the audition scenes, shoot their own audition, and be considered seriously for the two leads. And we had 7,000 inquiries, 1,200 videos, and we cast Ethan as Captain Jack Kemmer and Bryan as Lieutenant Bradbury, and it has been wonderful to work with them. They are every bit as wonderful as I thought they would be when I said yes to them. So, and Doug, do you want to talk about what attracted you to Space Command?
Marc Zicree attracted me to Space Command. I met him at the Saturn Awards, actually. I was presenting that night, and he was receiving an award in different categories, but he complimented my outfit on the red carpet, not knowing who each other was. And then after the show, he figured it out and was like, hey, he had just been co-writing a book with Guillermo del Toro, who I've worked with on many projects before. So we kind of made this connection. And he says, hey, here's my card. Can we do lunch sometime this week? And he pitched this idea of Space Command to me to play Dornevin, an android character that was, or a synthetic human. They call them synths in our show. And I had never played a mechanical human before. I've played lots of non-humans. I've played humans, but never this guy before. So it interested me because it was something different and something, and he writes with such heart and such humanity for. I mean, I played a machine, but I was one of the most human characters in the entire story.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. And the great part is that as a synthetic, you're able to observe humanity and comment on humanity. I really love, because so much of what mankind does is so crazy and so harmful, hurtful, self-destructive. And so it was wonderful to have a character who could comment on this.
That's the same kind of formula that worked when Stan Lee wrote for the Silver Surfer in the comic books. He was an outsider looking at Earth and making all kinds of commentary poetically about it. Yeah, that was definitely the Dornevin character here.
Oh, that's fun. So, and I don't know if you know, Doug, but Stan Lee actually shot in our studio.
He did?
Years ago. There's actually on Mr. Sci-Fi, there's a video of me with Stan at our studio, so talking about science fiction. So he was a dear soul and amazing.
He was a dear man, yeah. And he told me quietly that the Silver Surfer was his favorite character he ever created. So to play him on film for me was like, oh,
yeah, it's neat.
It's on effort.
That is wonderful here. Doug, you could correct me if I'm wrong, because if I could recall, back then, this is one of your first roles, or few roles that your face is actually seen at, you know, on screen.
I would say more one of the few, but not one of the first. I've been acting with my own face since the very beginning, 38 years ago. But in a role this size, to be one of the leads of this 2-hour, what started as a feature film, now becoming a series of films. I had never carried that much weight on film before with this face. And it was kind of scary, to be honest with you, because we, being on an independent budget as well, he shot very efficiently. And so Robert Picardo and I did all of our scenes together for this entire feature film length project in 3 days. That was a ton of poetic paragraph-sized dialogue. So having, so we had a friend.
You did it well, Doug. You did it well.
No, bless you. Ryan Husk came on set to just run lines with Robert Picardo and me between all of our shots, just so we could keep our brains working, because it was an awful lot.
Yes, but again, we're very actor friendly, and we provide whatever you need to have your process work well. Same way we work with Nichelle Nichols for her scene in the coming episode. The main thing was, Doug, you have such an amazing heart and such an amazing soul and such a beautiful face. I mean, if you had a schnoz like Jimmy Durante and a body like Kate Smith, I would understand why they would pack rubber on top of you. But you're so phenomenal looking. And
you have Ethan and Bryan here. Look at those two beautiful puppies, and so I thank you. I'll say thank you.
No, well, they're they're okay, but but again, the thing I love about you, Doug, is that in the scenes with Bob Picardo, in all of your scenes, there's such a quality of thought going on. I mean, you listen, you're alive as alive when you listen, if not more so than when you're speaking. And so it just makes the scenes have such a texture to them. Your eyes are so alive, and you're so expressive. It was just, and Ethan and Bryan, I know you can speak to what having Doug as your compatriot is like. I mean, it's a phenomenal gift.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think, Doug, and also just, I'm sorry, we're just bombarding you with compliments, man, but it's also like Mark was saying, just the heart that you put into it, the work that you were doing, man. It really was like I was learning just working with you. So it was an honor, man, and it always will be. And thank you for that.
And
Well,
when we
same to both of you. Bless you. Thank you.
And of course, when we cast Ethan and Bryan, they were just babies. They were in short pants, and you know, the big lollipops
Yeah.
they were licking. But but it's wonderful because, you know, when I cast Bryan and Ethan, they really hadn't done a lot in the industry yet, and here we are now with Ethan on Walking Dead and Bryan in that terrific Jessica Lange movie on HBO. I mean, these are, you know, I mean, they're, thank God the industry is recognizing the talent that I saw from the get-go.
It's it's wonderful to hear you guys' conversation as if like your projects are in the past, and we keep on forgetting you are still working together.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, you bet.
Indeed. In fact, I just sent Ethan the first 73 pages of the new script, which will be 120 in the next week or two. And that's the Great Solar War. That's hours 7 and 8 of Space Command. And Doug is in that, of course. He has a great scene. And you'll see a lot of the people that we've introduced in Space Command and a few more. We meet we have, you know, Billy Mumy and Bob Picardo, and then we introduce Billy Mumy's granddaughter, and who's a genius who invents the faster than light drive, and she's like 13 years old. And so I've been reaching out to. I met the actress who played the killer robot in, what was the film? It was you know, where she was like the little girl robot and she does that dance, and you know, and so
Megan.
Megan, yes,
Yeah.
well, I met Megan, the actress who played Megan, and so we're talking about her to play that role, and that'd be great fun. So we'll see if that happens.
Hey, Gig, you should see Marc Zicree at a fan sci-fi convention. He works the room, meets
Yeah,
everybody, tells them about Space Command, goes down his own litany of history as a writer, as a director, and
yeah,
then he gets actors to go, yeah, on the spot.
yeah.
It's like he has an elevator pitch unlike any I've ever heard in my life.
Let's not forget his YouTube channel is Mr. Sci-Fi. I mean, his encyclopedic knowledge of science fiction goes a long way.
Exactly. Right.
Yeah. Well, it's fun because, you know, the lovely thing is that now authenticity matters to an audience. It matters to your coworkers, so that if you speak from the heart, it's meaningful. Whereas in Hollywood, you know, in all those decades I was working for the studios and the networks, I was doing a lot of work I was very proud of, but they don't admire authenticity. You know, it's like you can come across some people who are not going to appreciate that you have a, you know, something you want to say. And you know, certainly people like Harlan Ellison encountered that and have their difficulties because, you know, which is why I designed Space Command, where there's nobody above me in the food chain. You know, we write it, my wife and I write it and direct it and produce it, and we don't have to ask permission from anybody. And that's a lot because our fans are supporting us financially, and that's a dream come true for me.
It is so funny. Like in my head, I can imagine Mark at the Saturn Awards using that as a casting call and recruiting more and more people into his production.
Yes,
Just with a
yes,
megaphone.
yes.
Everybody out there.
Well, but see, that's where science fiction is so wonderful because, you know, there's no equivalent in mainstream Hollywood. Like I can't go hither and yon and talk to Brad Pitt and talk to, you know, all these guys, and I get tased, you know. And so, but in science fiction, you meet your heroes, and to meet Doug Jones, for God's sake, I mean, you know, Doug is a very modest man, but he is literally one of the giants of cinema. I mean, he's made an astonishing mark on brilliant films over the last 30 years and will continue to do so. And these are, you know, the reason Doug has been offered so many singular roles is because he's a singular man and a singular talent. And but science fiction allowed me to, you know, use my charm power on him and reel him in, you know. So
Ethan, Bryan, now, you know, there's a lot of sci-fi shows where, you know, where there's always like a captain of a ship and navigation and all this kind of stuff. What was it hard to develop your characters as your own rather than trying to like imitate other characters from other sci-fi shows in the past?
I was just going off of whatever Bryan was doing. I was trying to copy that. I figured that's the best way to go about it.
I always set a standard, and
Right.
he's just as the captain following me. So it's kind of,
Yeah,
now,
yeah.
now
Yeah.
for me, I think it was just, just essentially just trying to imagine, what it would be like in that situation. And it wasn't anything more than just coming out of my own imagination rather than trying to compare it to anything. Just try to create the circumstances that were given through Mark and Elaine's writing, and just bring that to life, and try and be
Yeah.
true to the characters that he's written. And we have to really hone that in too, in just our audition process, which the talent search process was quite a long one. From our initial audition to the callback was actually, I think, about a year.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
So like just having time to really understand the character and like sit in it, and just bring that to set when we showed up.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think for me, the what's neat about how long we've been working on the project is that we're actually growing as humans as well. So I mean, just life experience we can bring to it, which is it's feels good to be able to know that we're growing as a human, first of all, but it's also it just rounds the character out. So I think early on, it was neat to be able, we shot some scenes that we then had to reshoot just because of different things. But for me as an actor, I had a total different outlook on life almost, so I could bring my life experiences to it and kind of revitalize whatever I was doing previously. I just think that's just an exciting way to approach, is kind of what Bryan's saying, just focus on what the words on the page are and then just bring your heart to it.
Yeah. Well, also the lovely part is that it is a journey. I'm very patient in terms of my own projects. I mean, the book with Guillermo took 5 years. The Twilight Zone Companion took 5 years to write. I'm not impatient. I mean, I agitate continually, as Doug mentioned. I'm always, I mean, it's a joy to be, promoting this stuff. It comes very naturally to me. But I'm willing to put in the long, hard hours. And so but I trust my partners, and you guys are all my partners. And but it's super fun, because the one thing that's really, really fun is these are not characters who remain the same from story to story. For instance, in the first 2-hour story, Redemption, that takes place 60 years from now. The second 2-hour story jumps 3 years later, and the third one that we're doing, Great Solar War, the one we're about to start shooting, is 20 years after that. So we get to see characters have families, and the span of the entire series, the first season, is 200 years, and we jump back and forth between generations. So, for instance, Bob Picardo, his great grandson is played by Armin Shimmerman, and so I guess a male pattern baldness, and but so it's but it's lovely to see the causation, the ripple effect. And to see lonely people. A big theme of this is lonely people connecting, finding belonging in other people, and I think that's a super important message in these times of such great isolation and loneliness.
Yeah. And like I was mentioning to Mark before, I visited set long time ago, with it, when I want to say you guys first built that bridge, of this spaceship. So I guess that to Ethan and Bryan, what was your first reaction to that? And if I recall, I want to say some of the knobs and levers actually work. So I think you could actually operate the bridge in its own way, and how you act around all that.
I mean, to me, I was just blown away because, a lot of the pieces I think they were able to use a lot of scraps. Correct me if I'm wrong, Mark. Like just recycled trash pieces to
metal
make
pallets.
it.
Yeah, we bought a bunch of metal pallets, and that formed a lot of the infrastructure that we used in various ways. Yeah.
Yeah, but you would never know it. It looks amazing. So I was just blown away, really.
Yeah, like Mark's brother Jim was the one that was kind of building that ship from the ground up. So it was really neat I think we might have got to see the beginning part of it, but then once we came on the day to get ready to roll camera, it was just, you're just a kid again looking around, and there's a spaceship there. We got, all these people that are all willing to put their heart into this project. It was, I think kind of what you dream about when you want to get into acting. Yeah, you want to be on a spaceship, you bet. And there it was. We just got to sit in the chair. It was amazing.
Yeah. Well, this is also, we had a production designer who was very, very talented, Carlos Fernandez, and he drew a lot of designs of, I decided to use the 1950s science fiction aesthetic, which was very helpful because it's such a cool look. And so Carlos designed a lot of different spaceships, interiors. And then my brother Jim sort of synthesized that into what became the final design for the Paladin. And then for the alien ship, the Imao, it's a 200 million-year-old ship that they dig up on Mars. That I chose the aesthetic of an architect named Agustin Gaudi, who's a very famous turn of the century Spanish architect that's utterly unique. And so I flew to Barcelona, studied all of his buildings, and took tons of photographs of details. And then that was both and then we had a contest, a worldwide contest for a visual effects designer to design that ship. And a fellow in Italy won the contest, and the design that we have in the show is by that guy. And once he did the outside of the ship, I hired him to design the inside of the ship, and it just looks spectacular and unlike anything you've ever seen before.
And that was the ship that I brought back to life. Is that right?
Yes,
Yeah,
yes,
and,
yes, yes.
and yeah, let me tell you, we're filming that on the day though too. So a lot of that design work was done visually with computer graphics in post-production.
Yes,
Because I
yes.
was on the day kind of doing this to a green screen, not knowing what it was going to all look like exactly in the end, which is another element to this entire project. There's so much visual effects. I mean, Mark, you can talk more about how many shots that it required post-production visual effects and
Yes.
how long that might have taken. Because as an actor on the day, we didn't know what I had no idea what I was doing, but thank heaven you filled in the gaps later.
Yeah, well, there in the first 2 hours, there's 1,900 visual effects shots, which is insane.
Insane.
That's more than Star Wars would have, and it's but part of it is and forgiveness, the 2 hours we just finished shooting, that has much more in the way of practicals. We built the alien spaceship in its entirety. We built 2 8-foot tall creatures, but there's still visual effects in that one too. But with the alien ship in Redemption, the challenge was it's this vast spaceship, and we couldn't afford to build all of it. It was just too huge. And so what we did was Carlos Fernandez, our production designer, he came up with this idea of a physical bridge that would be very ornate and kind of Victorian in its look, and then culminate in these 2 oblong view screens that was actually a detail from a gate that Gaudi designed back in like 1901 that I photographed and said to Carlos, let's have these be the view screens. And that allowed us to sort of have our characters on one specific physical area of space, and then in the background we put in all sorts of other little doodads and details and so forth. Yeah.
Wow. I never got to visit the alien spaceship because it was CGI and all this kind of stuff. But when I actually walked through the bridge, the only thing that was going in my head was like going, I would love to be that background character where it's just like the part of the bridge just explode and I just fly across the screen in the background.
Well, in Great Solar War, the one we're currently shooting and ramping up on, I've been buying a lot of spaceship sets and spaceship consoles from various movies like Cloverfield Paradox and Ender's Game and Black Adam and on and on and on to augment what we've designed and built freestanding. And so there's going to be a lot of spaceship interiors in Great Solar War, the next episode, including Jack Cameron will be a fleet commander, and so he's going to be in a massive flagship where the bridge is going to be much more like Battlestar Galactica. So we're going to see a lot of variety coming up, and then Doug, of course, will have his own planet, basically where he took the synthetics, and yeah,
As
exactly.
one does.
Yeah. Well, there's a very funny gag, Doug, that I haven't told you about where, your ship, the ship you stole, essentially, quote unquote, was 5 miles long, this alien ship. And so Jack and, Mazzy's granddaughter are flying in this prototype faster than light ship that the Paladin's been outfitted with. And they get to your planet and there's this heavy cloud cover. And Jack is saying, well, let's scan, let's see if we can find Dornevin's ship. And they look ahead of them and the ship is parked vertically, so it's 5 miles high, so it's poking right up through the cloud cover. It's like I think we found it. So it's going to be really fun, really, really fun.
Doug, every time you play these characters on screen, they always have this emotional journey. they always have like this emotional changes throughout, and including this character, Dor Nevin. Tell us about your process on playing these type of characters because you're just not I don't you're not just a character actor.
Oh, that's very kind of you. Thank you for that. I The characters that I've played that have heart and soul, like Dornevin, they are on a journey that a lot of us are familiar with. Who am I? What am I? Why am I? Where do I belong? What's my purpose? Right. So I think as as an android, he had a lot to discover on that. Yes, I've been built by someone, but I might have a purpose that's higher than just serving other elite people on this one planet. So I started asking questions that the people that I worked for in the high society weren't comfortable with. Why is this machine asking us questions that he's not programmed for? So, but my curiosity kept pushing, and that landed me working in a salt mine, I think, or something. And so, to just get me out of the elite fray. And then explosion goes off, and I'm found in a mess of rubble. And Robert Picardo's character is the one who kind of salvages the pieces. And the protocols are when a machine's that far gone, just let it go, trash it and use the parts for someone else or something else. And he had the heart and soul to put me back together because I was still cognizant enough to say, help me, put me back together. And he did quietly, privately. And during that process, I asked him to please not put my inhibitor chip back in.
Right.
So that gave me, so now I won't be controlled by Big Brother, now and this, can we all not relate to this, especially in this day and age, so that's a journey that felt like I wanted to explore that for sure as an actor.
Yes.
So then with his freedom, he then finds a way to liberate all of the other synths and have a mass uprising. And so that's when Ethan's character comes to find me and stop me. And may I talk about Ethan for a minute here, if we have a second? When you meet, I've got to tell this again, Ethan, I'm sorry. When you meet Ethan, he's like this humble fellow who is kind of like his hunched over, posture, and he nods a lot and he smiles a lot, and you think, what a sweetheart. And then he came in. The first scene we had together is when he comes in to stop me. You're like, kind of you there, stop that scene. And I turn around, and there he is in this form-fitted, rubberized, armor costume, standing with a crook to his torso, broad-shouldered, square-jawed, eyes beaming at me, and I'm like, I was so taken aback that I forgot my dialogue. I was like, oh, I got to say something here. Who is this guy? Right? Because he completely embodied something that was not the humble, sweet Ethan that I know.
No,
So
thank you,
anyway,
Jeff.
I just wanted
Thank
to attest to your acting talents. I wish I had scenes with you, Brian, but
I know.
One
Thanks,
day
Jeff.
and something. Yeah,
Good
we're
day,
gonna
Jeff.
If only we knew the writer.
Yeah. It's
you.
true. It's true.
Right,
And again, so many projects, one, finishes and then everyone drifts away and, and it's over. But you can tell from just the way we talk to each other that these are my friends, and then working with them repeatedly. I'm creating an ensemble of actors that I'm going to be using in multiple productions. So for instance, Doug is in the feature that we're doing, and my wife is writing and directing. And then all of these guys are in roles in different productions that we're doing simultaneously. We have 5 series waiting in the wings for us to start shooting, which we'll be doing within the year. And Ethan's going to read for the lead in one of them, just to see, it's a very different role from Captain Camera. So it's like, okay, let's see if this works. And there's a quality of creative experimentation that I love, and because I'm able with my friends to create something wonderful, and I don't have the answers. Working with any actor is a process of discovery and delight, because the reason I'm not writing novels is, first of all, because I don't want to sit in a room getting increasingly white, until finally one day I sag and, they come and cremate me. But basically, I love working with other people. I love the surprise, because I can write a script, but I don't know how Doug's going to take a run at it, or Ethan or Brian. It's a wonderful and mysterious process. And it's funny, Gig, because when you asked if they if they were inspired by other characters in other shows. Anyone who knows acting knows that the actor, to be any good at all, has to be in the moment, in the scene. They have to find the way, whatever their preparation is, whatever their methodology is, they have to be, it has to make the scene alive. They have to be in it, in the moment, in the character, there, interacting with the other characters. And that's miraculously what we have with Doug, with Ethan, with Bryan, with Bob Picardo, Mira Furlan, of course, who was absolutely wonderful, and the great Bill Mumy, who I met when I was 7. So, he's, an icon in science fiction. So, as is Doug.
Well, then let me pose this question, because it's the idea of the creative family, that it seems like you always stick around. And I know Doug has been through many creative families itself, and so I'm just going to pose this question as particularly to Ethan and Bryan, because now you guys actually have moved on to bigger and better projects, but it seems like you stayed humble and loyal to Space Command, even though I want to say almost 10 years for this family, and you guys could have moved on to other creative families, but you guys keep on coming back. And Doug is even coming back, even though last time I spoke with you, Doug, was with Star Trek just recently itself. So what about the Space Command family that you guys want to stay humble and keep on coming back and continue to do projects with everyone?
I feel like it's just that. It's just like on a lot of sets, depending on the size of the role and the participation of whatever the script calls for, a lot of it is just like you're there for a day and then you're gone. Or if you're there for 3 months, then you have that possibility to build this family and then it's gone. But I think because Space Command has been ongoing, you get excited just to see everybody again. So it's nice to show up on set and everybody's already familiar. You just plug right in and you start creating movie magic. So I think just what you're saying, Gig, it just feels good to be a part of it.
And it's a really, I often describe Space Command as one of the most unique projects I've had the pleasure of being a part of, because of the way we make it, the way we do it, which allows to, just playing into what Ethan said, to keep, well, sometimes we've done it in chunks, a lot of it's been filmed partially in chunks. So it allows us to bring the family always back together. And so every time we get back on set, it's almost like a reunion again, or if we go to another convention to share about Space Command, we're bringing the family back together, where so many experiences that we have in this entertainment industry, you'll have this really intense experience with people for a very short amount of time and you love them dearly, and they go off and you don't see them maybe once again, maybe never. I mean, except on social media. But it really does allow us to come back together and just celebrate each other and just keep the good times rolling.
Yeah, it's not even just the cast and crew, but it's also the fact that the fans are a part of it. So I think it's neat. It's like a big, gigantic, intergalactic family. It's cool to have that connection as well.
But yeah, even the way Marc shares the come on down to set. There's a lot of our the funders, donators have been able to come on set as well and have a unique experience to them, which I have. There's very few projects I've had that allow that kind of interactivity with fans.
Yeah, if we have this lovely family, Marc and Elaine Zicree are mom and dad in that family.
Absolutely,
they've kept it very, very tight knit and together. When I do the convention circuit out there meeting fans for all the projects I've been in over the years, more than once, it's happened many times where someone will come up to me and say, "I'm a backer for Space Command," and you're somewhere in Oklahoma. It's lovely to see that happen. Even last night, I was at an FYC for your consideration event for What We Do in the Shadows. Not to boast about myself, but some nice lady came up to me at the reception afterward and said that she's a part of The Table, which is an ongoing group that Marc and Elaine have had for years and years of getting filmmakers and those in the creative media industries together just to talk about to encourage each other and to help fill gaps for needs they have with each other's projects. So when you have a mom and dad like that, that's what keeps the family together.
That's lovely. Well, a few years ago, I met a guy who had been Robert Altman's assistant. And he told me a great story, which was on Altman's last film, Prayer Home Companion. On the first day that the cast got together, it was an amazing cast. It was Woody Harrelson and Meryl Streep and many, many other actors of that ilk. And Robert Altman said to them, "You're all here for the right reasons because we can't afford the wrong reasons." So it's like, yes, exactly, exactly. We're doing this because we love it, because it's meaningful, because we all know, all of us know, all of us who work. I mean, see, the fascinating thing about film and television is it's the most powerful art form ever invented. Okay, we reach millions of people around the world, and the work we do can last for decades. I mean, there are things I wrote when I was in my early 20s that people are still watching and loving, and and it can have an amazing positive effect if it's done well. There's so many people who will watch Pan's Labyrinth, for instance, or any of the other movies, Shape of Water, and their lives will be made better. And it's not just momentary entertainment; it's a way of showing there's a message that good art has, which is take courage, take courage. You are not alone. You are not, no matter what kind of weirdo you are, there's somebody who will say, come on in, you're welcome here. And that's why I love working in this art form. It's wonderful because all of us in one way or another are weirdos, but we're the lucky ones because we found our emotional home and our emotional family. We're very lucky in that. I mean, Guillermo del Toro, of course, is one of the great examples of that, because here's this little kid in Mexico, and when you say Mexican film before Guillermo, you'd say Mexican films, and people would think of like wrestling films or whatever, just crappy movies. And Guillermo built the infrastructure he needed to do his first film, Kronos. It took him 10 years to build the infrastructure and practical effects. And then it punched through and put him on the map, and now he's one of the world's great directors. But it was nerve and drive and talent and genius and luck, because how many geniuses end up never having their dream, end up, just having to settle. And so we're the lucky ones, enormously lucky.
Of course, yeah, absolutely. Especially the fact that we're talking about sci-fi here, and sci-fi fans, I want to say, are one of the most devoted fans out there all around the world. Especially with something like Space Command being a sci-fi show, and as it's get more episodes and getting bigger and bigger, how do you deal with the fans when you actually go out there in public? You guys sound so genuine that you guys not those type of other celebrities just dismissive and said, don't talk to me. How do you guys approach your fans?
What? Oh, go ahead, Ethan.
Well, I was just gonna say that for right when I got the gig as Jack Cameron for Space Command, Mark and Elaine said, "Well, are you ready to go to San Diego Comic-Con? Because we're going to announce you as the talent search winner, along with Brian and Sarah Marafino, Aaron Gaffey." And for me, I was just, I'd always seen like, ooh, San Diego Comic-Con, because it was the big mecca of con. And to be able to have like a panel and be up there and do that, and then we're signing autographs. And a unique thing for me was when we were there at the table, people are interested and they're seeing what's going on, and this young man Doug Jones shows up, and the line goes out around the wall, and there my wife has a picture of this young girl who was so excited to see Doug. And Doug, because you're always so warm and welcoming and so great with everybody, this girl, like, it looks like her eyeballs are, she's just like gobsmacked at meeting Mr. Doug Jones, and to see Doug just warm welcome and take her whatever questions she had, whatever things she wanted to say, and then that instantly showed me like, well, okay, this is how you do this. So Doug, I want to say thank you for that too, man. That's amazing.
Following up on that, I mean, Ethan has now reached to that level. He told me about an experience he just had recently, where a girl came in, asked for her to have him sign his autograph on her leg that she eventually got tattooed. Wow. His signature is now on somebody. So he's getting up there, Doug.
Yeah, I
You
hope
graduated,
It's
yes.
Everyone
Yeah.
at Comic-Con, if you guys are at a table, is going to be at your guys' table.
Yeah, and
No.
for that, it's really surreal. And I even told her, I said, you don't have to do that. She goes, well, I want to, because she's telling a story through art on her body. And I told her, well, it's a great honor to be able to,
Yeah.
I guess be a part of your story in that way. But it's just really unique, and it's just what Mark was saying. It's through this medium, through telling stories and being able to share and have people enjoy what we're doing. It's just a really unique, I guess, opportunity to share with everybody.
It
Yeah.
is. You talk about the difference between like engaging with the fans at a convention or being aloof. We've seen the aloof actors out there. But for me personally, when I have a line of people waiting to meet me to tell me how much they love me, who could hate that? How could you? Right? My gosh, it is so incredibly humbling, and it gives me a beautiful, unique chance to hear one story at a time about something I've been in over the years that met somebody at a place in their life where they were watching this with their family, or they were going through a hard time, they were unemployed, they were going through an illness, something where a project of mine helped them get through it, or helps them remember a lost loved one. I mean, so many personal, heartfelt stories I hear from people who helped me buy my house. Now, if it wasn't for those fans, I wouldn't, right? I'm saying none of us would be employed. So, there's no question why you would be nice in that situation. I don't know. So the actors who don't get that, I don't understand them. Yeah.
But again, to compliment Doug, I've seen the long lines that stretch as far as the eye can see into the ocean and beyond, and the waiting for his signature. And it takes enormous energy, and it takes enormous kindness, and to focus and to see that one fan and have that moment with them that is going to be so meaningful to them. I mean, to do that for thousands and thousands of people over a several-day period, that really is a Herculean effort, and not something to be just accept as, oh well, that's just how it is. No, it's an effort that Doug puts in to be kind and to be present, and I really honor that. And speaking for myself in this regard, I'm very unusual in the fact that Mr. Sci-Fi is my YouTube channel, and we just hit 100,000 subscribers. We've had millions of hits. I put out my personal email and my personal phone number. And people are always aghast, and they say, "Oh my God, what would there's crazy people out there or whatever." No one has ever misused any of that information. I have never had anyone misuse it. If they do, then obviously they'll have to roll with it. But by putting it out there and saying, "I trust you with this. I trust you with this," it's like, I don't know. I'm a fan just like they are. I mean, I'm the same geeky kid I was when I was 10 and Star Trek came on the air, and the fascinating thing. But science fiction, that window of glass of the television set is permeable, and you get to meet your heroes in science fiction. You can go to conventions. I mean, the amazing thing is the first episode of Star Trek that aired was called The Man Trap, and it basically pulled my head off, took my brain out, turned it around several times, put it back in, and put my head back on my neck. It changed my world. And the man who wrote that episode was George Clayton Johnson. And later I met him, and he became a very good friend and mentor. He was one of the great writers of the Twilight Zone. He encouraged me to write the Twilight Zone book. And so to go from a 10-year-old kid seeing this amazing, amazing piece of work to meeting him and becoming friends with him, phenomenal. And so all of us who are either signing autographs or on the other side getting the autographs, meeting our heroes, it's and when they turn out to be kind, it gives us it shows us that the world can be a kind place. The world doesn't have to be cruel. The world doesn't have to be cynical. The world doesn't have to be cold. It can be welcoming. And that's what I love about science fiction.
It's really funny as you're all talking about this. In my head, I'm replaying the first time I met Doug Jones at a Wizard World convention. I don't know if Wizard World is still
I don't know. Yeah.
And I remember going up to them. I was all serious, trying to do an interview. He took the time, and then after the interview, he just gave me this warm embrace hug, and my thought was like, "Oh my gosh, he's a hugger." A celebrity
he is.
And a cheek pincher. And a cheek pincher.
And a cheek pincher. Yeah.
And I still remember that vivid moment. I want to say it was like maybe over 10 years, maybe 15 years ago. I can't remember. And
I think that was in Los Angeles, right?
I was in Los
I
Angeles.
remember that Wizard World. Yeah, yeah. Thank you for that's a very sweet memory. Thank you.
Yeah. Is it, and Doug, you haven't changed a bit.
Well, thank you.
Yeah. But again, as Doug was saying, it's a gift. I mean, for us to do work that people love and admire and hold to their hearts, I mean, it's astonishing. And again, as Doug was saying, sometimes our work can have have an enormous positive effect that we never would have dreamed of. I think I may have mentioned in one other interview, Doug, I don't remember. I wrote an episode of He-Man when I was in my early 20s, He-Man and the Masters of the Universe. And I got a letter from a guy who wanted me to sign some frame grabs from that episode because it was his favorite episode. And he revealed to me in a letter, he said when he was a kid, his dad was murdered one Halloween. And what kept him going was that one episode of He-Man. Somehow there was something in that episode that allowed him to keep together and move through his childhood. And now he was married and had kids, and he was thanking me essentially for his life. And that's astonishing. And I never would have dreamed that a He-Man episode would have that power, but it did. So we are so that's as much a gift to me, certainly, as it was to him.
We never know.
No,
Well, Mark, I have a He-Man letter opener sword right over there, so I thank you for that.
Well, you're very welcome. Yes, well, it's and it's funny because when they interviewed me to do on the making of He-Man documentary, which just came with a box set of He-Man, they asked me what I thought of the look of He-Man, and I said, well, with that page boy hair and that build, he would fit into any gay bar in my neighborhood. And so for some reason they didn't use that. I don't know why. I live in West Hollywood, and yeah, but it's funny. So, but He-Man, all of those shows were great because it was such a small group of writers. We all knew each other. We all went to, each other's houses and were pals. We were all in our 20s and early 30s at the oldest. I mean, and one week we'd be writing Smurfs, and the next week He-Man, and the next week Real Ghostbusters, and juggling all these different projects. So that's how I learned how to do what I do now with what I'm doing with Space Command and all the other projects. So it was a very good learning ground.
Well said. Well said. Well, I've taken everyone a lot of time already, and I would hate to end this, but I'm pretty sure we'll have more opportunities to talk down the road. But as a tease, tell us what's in the future for your characters of Space Command that you can reveal to us now.
Well, Gig, your character is going to get sucked out of a ship. We've already established that, so I like that.
Yeah, if you want to be in an episode, just follow up with me and we can make that happen. It's pretty easy. So, but I don't know if any of you guys want. Well, Doug or Ethan.
Well, as for the future of Dor and Evan, I don't know any more than what Mark just told you earlier in this. I have not seen a script yet, so I'm anticipating whatever that might be.
Well, let's just say that in Great Solar War, he makes a friend.
There you go.
Yeah,
And
for Jack Kimmer, how Mark was saying that it takes the next installment takes place a few years after Redemption. So in Forgiveness, it's kind of I don't know if it's like a darker feel for Jack Kimmer, but he's trying to put some pieces together based on what happens in his personal life, but he's having to move that forward through still having to get the job done.
Yeah,
and he comes across some I guess hurdles you could say based on who he meets, and there's he just has to team up with some unlikely partners, I guess, if you could say that. I don't know, is that too vague? I don't know.
it's pretty vague. Yeah, I don't think I'm gonna go watch that episode, but the in your description, but but yes, Forgiveness, a lot happens. It's about grief, forgiveness, moving on. And then the Great Solar War, you have a grown son who's a weapons officer in Space Command, and Bryan actually has a grown daughter in that episode who's a journalist, and a lot happens, and we meet a young man who was a little boy in the first episode who's now grown, and let's say he holds a grudge. So so there's going to be a lot of fun stuff ahead. I can't wait to shoot that. It's going to be great fun.
How do you feel about that, Bryan? A grown daughter.
Pretty excited about having a daughter. That he said.
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting. I mean, I know because we did like some of the prequel stuff during COVID in Ripple Effect episode that we did, and so it was established in there that I had a daughter. So
Yeah.
this would be a little bit more background on that, it sounds like.
Yeah, and even though Bryan looks like a baby, he's actually like 83 years old. I mean, he's
83 years old.
as
You
they
know,
say, as they say, white don't crack. You know, so
they say that all the time.
They
somebody
say
said that. Yeah, no, but
Nobody said
Bryan's actually older than he looks, let us say, and could certainly have a grown daughter if he chose to.
Well said. Well said. Well, everyone, thank you very much for speaking to us about Space Command and Space Command Redemption. And all of that is now being shown that people could actually check out and meet Ethan, Bryan, Doug at conventions, say hi and all this kind of stuff, and it'll be terrific. And who knows, maybe I will get blown out of an airlock. I'll
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
And we're
even
gonna,
email Mark and thank Ethan for that speck of an idea.
yeah,
You
and
bet, you bet.
we'll be at San Diego Comic-Con again. We're going to be screening some new footage. So if people want to come and say hi, and but just watch Mr. Sci-Fi for the latest and the greatest, and there's a lot of adventures ahead.
All right. Well, thank you very much. Appreciate it. We'll
Thank
talk
you.
next.
Thanks, Gig.
Thank you for having us, Gig.